Hello learners, welcome to this video lesson. Today we are going to discuss another topic, that is recommendations of National Education Policy, that is NEP 2020. Friends, we have already discussed in this module few of the earlier lessons that are related to education development in modern time, that means after independence. And in this connection, today we are going to discuss the latest development, the current development so far as education policy is concerned in India, that is National Education Policy. Friends, before starting our discussion, let me to introduce myself. I, Dr. Niradhar De, faculty member, School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University, welcome you all to this video lesson. As you know that presently we are in the fourth module of your course. Your course code is BESC 131 and course title is Education, Concept, Nature and Perspectives. In this course, the title of fourth module is Historical Developments of Education and Overview. In this module, 5 different important lessons are there. First is education during ancient time, then education during medieval period, then education during modern time, that is pre-independence period, then education during modern time, post-independence period. Then today's lesson is recommendations of National Education Policy NEP 2020. Now let us focus upon some of the learning outcomes, and I am very much hopeful that after watching this video lesson and going through the content that is given in your self learning material, you will be able to discuss the fundamental principles of National Education Policy, that is NEP 2020. Then you will be able to describe the recommendations of National Education Policy NEP 2020, and further you will be critically analyze the recommendations of National Education Policy NEP 2020. Now let us go forward to understand what are the different national education policy that has been set up, that has been established in India. Friends, so far there are 3 important national policy on education has been set up in independent India. Many a time it create confusion among the learners, among the teachers, that among the education commissions that are established in free India, how many commissions are really the national policy on education? Friends, that is why I am just making it clear that so far in our country 3 important national policy on education have been developed. First is National Policy on Education 1968, then further National Policy on Education NPE 1986, which is popularly known as NPE 1986, and the system of education, the structure of education, that is 10 plus 2 plus 3 system of education, 10 year of school education, then 2 year of higher secondary education, then 3 year of degree education at the college level. That was very much popular, and presently also we are practicing it. Okay? And we have discussed in our earlier lesson about NPE 1986, and further the current development, the recent development, that is the National Education Policy NEP 2020. Here you will find that so far as the fundamental principles and new pedagogical and curricular structure is concerned, you will come acquaint with that there is a fundamental changes, there is you can say a paradigm shift so far as pedagogy, structure and other aspect of education system of our country is concerned. So these are the 3 different policy on education, and that is called as the National Policy on Education. And today our focus is on National Education Policy NEP 2020. As you know that National Education Policy 2020 has been notified by the Government of India in July 2020, I think on 29th July 2020. After a 34 years of implementation, of the last education policy in India, that is National Policy on Education NP in 1986, NEP 2020 has been come into force. You see the gap, 34 years of gap from NEP 1986. Within these 34 years, you will find that lot of changes have been taken place in different sectors of education, in different areas of education. It may be school education, it may be higher education, it may be technical and professional education. Okay. This is not in our country, this is not at the national level, rather the changes has been realized at global level also. So, that is why it was high time to come forward with a new education policy. So, that is called as the National Education Policy 2020 finally came into force, and implementation of this policy has also been started. We are just in 2022, just nearly 1 year, more than 1 year has been passed, but the implementation of different recommendations of this NEP 2020 has been started. Now, let us focus upon some of the fundamental principles of NEP 2020. First of all, the philosophy of this policy, this national education policy. First of all, reorganizing, identifying and fostering the unique capabilities of each child. Friends, we consider that the students, the child who are coming to the formal education system, they have enough potential, you can say experiences, and they have enough capabilities also. So, this policy will enable the child, enable the students to understand their potential abilities, then accordingly our education system should provide certain you can say certain knowledge, certain understanding, certain academic experience to the learners, so that they can come forward with new experiences, new knowledge, so that they can practice it in their life also. Further, another fundamental principle is prioritizing achieving fundamental literacy and numeracy by all students by grade 3. Try to understand here the fundamental literacy and numeracy. We have experienced earlier that the minimum level of learning, that means it may be related to language, it may be related to science, it may be related to mathematics. The school students, they are not able to achieve the minimum level of learning. That means what numerical abilities or what numerical achievements and understanding they are supposed to achieve, they are supposed to attain at class 3, at class 4 or at class 5. At the same time, what literacy related, language related skills they are supposed to achieve, they are supposed to acquaint in different standards. So, this is a very pathetic situation. You can say that the minimum level of learning or the standard of a minimum standard of learning has not been achieved by the students. So, that is why this policy is prioritizing and emphasizing to achieve fundamental literacy, at the same time fundamental numeracy by all students by grade 3. Then flexibility for the students in selecting courses of their education. So, here the policy provides a wider flexibility to the students, why it provides a wider opportunity to the students to select their courses according to their own need, according to their own aptitude and according to their own interest. And further, no hard separations between arts and science, between curricular and extracurricular activities and between vocational and academic streams will be there so far as in curriculum designing and curriculum practicing. It is also another fundamental principle. And further, NEP 2020 has also talked about bringing multidisciplinarity and a holistic education across the sciences, social sciences, arts, humanities and sports. So, holistic development of the child is is the most important so far as our education system is concerned, and that is possible when we go for a multidisciplinary practice so far as our academic programs are concerned. So, that is why it includes educational experiences that the learners are getting from different streams and different disciplines. It may be science related, social science related, arts and humanities and sports related subjects and disciplines. Okay. A science students, if they are interested, they can study a vocational course, they can study a course related to humanities. Okay. At the same time, a student of social science, if he or she is interested and if she is having certain abilities and certain aptitude, they can also go for study certain computation related, certain marketing related and certain science related courses also. Okay. And further, emphasis on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for exam. So, present education system, what we have observed in last few decades, that the learners are engaged themselves for preparing examination. Okay. And that is why what they are doing, they are just developing rote learning and cramming. So, it happens because without understanding the things, just they develop certain rote learning, rote memory, and they reproduce that rote memory during the examination. So, how to break such situation? How to provide education in such a way that the students should develop certain understanding of the concept, of the content, and they can also do certain hands-on activities so far as their course, so far as the nature of course is concerned. Then further development of creative and critical thinking of the children is another fundamental principle. The policy should provide scope. Our educational program and courses should provide scope to the students for their creative development, creative thinking, at the same time critical thinking also. Then another fundamental principle is practice of ethics and human and constitutional values like empathy, respect for others, cleanliness, courtesy, democratic spirit, spirit of service, respect for public property, scientific temper, then liberty, responsibility, pluralism, equality and justice. So, these are the certain values. Okay. This is very much attached with our life skills also. So, you see, when we conceptualize or when we talk about the education system of a country, it should not be beyond the values, it should not be beyond the ethical practices, it should not beyond achieving the democratic spirit, spirit of service, respect for public property and other types of values. Okay. So, that is why friends, this is another important fundamental principle of this policy, that such values should be reflected in course content and in our program. In any discipline, you can say, in any streams, you can say, it may be social science, it may be science, it may be humanities, it may be vocational studies, it may be sports, it may be yoga and other types of studies also. Further, promoting multilingualism and the power of language in teaching and learning is another fundamental principle. Friends, our is a pluralistic country. India is a diversified country. We consider that all our diversities as our strength, and our diversities help us to live unitedly. So, that is why we practice many languages and we practice many dialects also. So, that is why in our school, our teaching should be multilingual, and the learners from different parts of the country, they have the right to study or to get the study material in their own languages. So, that is why care has been taken, and now implementation has also been started, that how to use multiple language so far as teaching in the classroom, so far as providing learning materials to the students, and to equip the students and to make the students understand the concept, understand the philosophy of the content, and understand their courses and programs in their own languages. So, this is also another important aspect of this policy. And for the development of life skills such as communication, cooperation, teamwork, resilience, etc. Try to understand Without achieving the life skills, without practicing the life skills, without developing the life skills, no education system is get success. So that's why life skill education is should be the integrated part, should be included in our education system, in our courses and programs. So this has also been given importance so far as conceptualizing and developing this National Education Policy 2020 is concerned. Then further focus on regular formative assessment for learning rather than the summative assessment that encourages today's coaching culture. Friends, we are just now factorizing why the students are coming to the coaching classes and how to curb it and how to stop such practices. So that's why what we have to do, we have to understand the situation, then accordingly we have to develop our curriculum, and at most we have to focus upon the formative assessment, because formative assessment engages the students actively in the learning process. Okay, because this is a day-to-day assessment practices. It may be observation based, it may be group discussion, it may be any type of by using different types of tools also. So for engaging students in study, we have to do the formative assessment, and the much formative assessment we will do, then definitely that will reduce the private coaching practices. So that's why friends, now importance is given much on the formative assessment but less in the summative assessment. Summative assessment means after completion of a semester or after completion of a year or a academic session, you are just appearing one examination. So that's why what you are doing, you are just studying the last 1 month of your academic course and you are appearing in the examination. You are developing certain rote memory and you are reproducing it without understanding the things. Okay, so that's why formative assessment, how to give much importance on formative assessment so far as our course curriculum is concerned. Then further, extensive use of technology in the teaching learning process is another important aspect. Nowadays we cannot live without technology. So far as our education system is concerned, we have to use the technology because we have experienced it in the last 2 years starting from 2020 onwards, because we have experienced the critical situation of COVID-19. Okay, so that's why technology is now an integrated part of our teaching learning process. And for the respect for diversity and respect for the local context in all curriculum, pedagogy and policy, always keeping in mind that education is a concurrent subject. I have already said that India is a diversified country. We have many diversities so far as language, so far as culture, custom and tradition. Okay, so that's why, and occupation. So that's why what we have to do, we have to address such things and we have to adopt a pedagogy, adopt a curriculum and a policy to address locally and nationally all these diversities, and we have to train the young generation to understand the diversities, then accordingly to work on it. Then further, practicing equity, equality and quality in education is another important aspect of this policy. Only achieving equality is not enough, rather we have to provide equity, and mostly we have to provide quality education. It may be school education or it may be higher education, teacher education, technical education or professional education. We have to create a group of learners those can really take the interest for reconstructing this country, for developing this country. Okay, so that vision we have to develop through our education system, through our courses, through our curriculum. Then further, synergy in curriculum across all levels of education. So how to develop a connectiveness, school education to higher education to technical education. Then even if in the school education, from foundational stage to preparatory stage, from preparatory stage to middle stage, from middle stage to secondary, then secondary stage to college education. So that synergy should be maintained. Further, teachers and faculty as the heart of the learning process. So that's why how to develop the knowledge base of the teachers, how to acquaint the teachers with the changing situation of the society so far as educational practices is concerned. So that is also important aspect. Then understanding research, as a core requisite for you can say outstanding education and development. So research cannot be understood isolatedly. Rather, it should be the part of our graduation and post graduation program apart from the research based program, just like your PhD. So, that is why anyhow we have to address the issues of research, and we have to promote the young learner for conducting micro level research, at the same time some systematic and macro level research also. Then deeply rooted and to feel proud to be an Indian, our Indian culture, our Indian knowledge system, our you can say rich heritage of knowledge. So, how to showcase it, how to promote it, and how to create a type of vision, how to create a type of you can say establishment that our students, the students of India, how they will understand the country, how they will understand the diversities in the country, how they will understand the knowledge base of the country, and how they will feel pride of it. So, that is why friends, this is also another important fundamental principle of this NEP 2020. Now friends, let us go forward to understand some of the important recommendations of NEP 2020. It is not possible to go through all the recommendations in a small video lesson. Still then I will try my best, just touch upon some of the important recommendations, and I am very much hopeful that when you will go through the resource material, okay, and definitely will understand many more things about various recommendations of NEP 2020. First of all, the recommendations are in 4 different parts. Part 1 is school education, part 2 is higher education, part 3 is other key areas of focus apart from higher and school education. Then part 4 is making it happen, that is the implementation aspect, that how the recommendations given in part 1, 2 and 3 will be implemented in the field. So, that is why this is a complete document. It talks about the recommendations and also provide a way for implementing those recommendations. If I will focus upon recommendations of NEP 2020 on school education, here you see first of all it focuses upon early childhood care and education, the foundation of learning. So, unless we develop, unless we formalize the early childhood care education, we should not expect that there will be quality school education, quality formal education, quality middle stage education or quality secondary education. So, that is why at the pre-primary stage we have to provide a good curriculum, a national level curriculum for early childhood care education, and we have to train, we have to nurture, we have to provide education in such a way that pre-primary education will be a boon for getting quality education at the primary stage. And further, fundamental literacy and numeracy, this is an urgent and necessary requisite to learning. I have already said that this is very pathetic that our students are not achieving the fundamental literacy and numeracy. They are not able to develop skills of languages. It may be writing, it may be reading, it may be you can say speaking, listening. So, that is why 4 skills of language, at the same time mathematical numeracy skills. So, it should be our priority so far as the school education is concerned. Then curtailing dropout rates and ensuring universal access to education at all levels. So, this is also another important recommendation in school education. So, how to curtail, how to reduce the dropout rate and how to ensure 100% literacy in our country. Then further, curriculum and pedagogy in schools, learning should be holistic, learning should be integrated, enjoyable and engaging. So, these are the important aspects that for developing a new pedagogical structure, NEP 2020 has given a new pedagogical structure, that is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 system of education. 5 years of foundational stage of education, then 3 years of preparatory stage, then 3 years of middle stage of education, then 4 years of secondary education, that includes class 9th, 10th and the senior secondary classes, that is 11th and 12th. Now, this has merged in the secondary education. So, that is why friends, these are some of the recommendations of school education, and apart from this new pedagogical and curricular structure that I have already discussed, this is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 system of education so far as our school education system is concerned. Then teachers continuous professional development is another important aspect. equitable and inclusive education. This is learning for all. Okay, so all should learn, all should get knowledge, all should get experience, and all should practice. This is not just like a piecemeal practice, rather we have to deal the diversity, we have to deal inclusive education, we have to deal each and every students those are coming to the formal education system. Then further, effective resourcing and effective governance through school complex and cluster is also important aspect, that how to provide good administration, good governance so far as educational administration is concerned by using the school complexes and cluster. Okay, cluster means it's a group of school. So the resources that we have, so how to share the resources for the multiple use, so that is also another important concern. Now let us focus upon some of the recommendations related to higher education, just like quality universities and colleges, how to practice our curriculum and courses and other educational practices in a very qualitative way so far as higher education is concerned. So it addresses our university system, at the same time college education. Then institutional reconstructing and consolidation, then holistic and multidisciplinary education, then optimal learning environment and support for students is also another important aspect so far as higher education system is concerned. Then motivated, engaged and capable faculty. So how to create a group of faculty, they are really motivated, they are really energized and they are really capable to do the things. Then equity and inclusive in higher education, not only in higher education, rather in all sectors of education. Then teacher education is another important part. If we are not able to prepare good teacher, then definitely will not get a good generation, definitely will not get a young generation, those are really motivated to work constructively for the development of this country, for construction of this country. So that's why we have to transform the teacher education programs, teacher education system in our country. Then reimagine vocational education. So how to provide work to each and every individual's hand. So that's why we have to promote the skills and competencies, the graduated skills in our courses and in our programs. So that's why skills and vocational education should be given utmost priority so far as a fruitful and productive education system is concerned. Then further, quality academic research is another important aspect. Without research establishment, without practicing research, no higher education system is strong. So that's why if you can take the example of across the globe, so that's why we have to revamp and we have to reconstruct, we have to establish a good research culture so far as our higher education system is concerned. Then transforming the regulatory system of higher education. Okay, so now things are going on that how club different regulatory bodies and how to transform the regulation of higher education system, that without taking much of the time, how decisions can be taken, how courses and curriculum should be developed and how the students take the benefit of it. Okay, how to reduce bureaucracy by using educational administration is also another important aspect. Then further, effective leadership and governance in higher education is also another important aspect. Apart from school and higher education system, now let us focus upon some of the key areas of focus, other key areas of focus, just like professional education. You can take the example of teacher education, you can take the example of management, you can marketing, you can take the example of information and communication technology, engineering and other types of programs also, law, agriculture, other types of programs also. So how to promote such professional educations for the development of this country. Then adult education and lifelong learning is also another important aspect. So education, there is no end of education, it is a continuum process, it is a continuous process. Okay, so that's why lifelong learning or lifelong education should be practiced in the society, in the community. So that is also another key area of focus. Then promotion of Indian languages, arts and culture, that I have already said, that how to promote the rich heritage of our country, okay, the rich knowledge tradition of our country. So somehow we have to promote, somehow we have to include, integrate it in our curriculum. Then technology use and integration, online and digital education is also another important key areas of focus in this NEP 2020. And further, making it happen means how these recommendations should be implemented. So that's why a particular section is there as recommendation in NEP 2020, that is on making it happen. So here the particular recommendations are, first of all, strengthening Central Advisory Board of Education. So how to strengthen them, how to you can say transform the CABE, Central Advisory Board of Education. They take the decision, then accordingly they implement different aspects of education for the development of education at different stages. And for the financing, so how to provide adequate finance so far educational development is concerned, so that affordable and quality education for all is possible. Then effective implementation, so how to, we have to create a type of mechanism, stage wise mechanism, that how the things will reflect at the field, okay, at the remote of the country. Okay, so that's why effective implementation plan so far as at different stages of education by developing different schemes of education, different projects of education should be done. Then for the technology use and integration, so here you see use of technology is not part of a single recommendation, rather this has been integrated in school education, higher education, other focus areas, at the same time making it happen also in our implementation aspect also. Technology should be integrated and should be used. Friends, just to recapitulate, I am just focusing upon certain questions for your practice. Just like after going through this video lesson and the content that is provided to you, you will be able to what are the fundamental principles of National Education Policy 2020, what are the recommendations of NEP 2020 and school education is concerned, then recommendations of NEP 2020 higher education is concerned, then you will be able to explain the new pedagogical and curricular structure of school education, then what are the recommendations of NEP 2020 on other areas of focus is concerned, then further critically analyze the recommendations of NEP 2020 in particular areas such as school education. Even if in school education you can just take one area, one sub recommendation, and you can also critically analyze it even if in the higher education system. So these are the certain questions that may help you to prepare yourself for continuous assessment, at the same time for your terminal examination also. Friends, just to recapitulate, today we discussed the very fundamental principle for establishing this National Education Policy NEP 2020, and further we discussed the recommendations of NEP 2020 at different stages of education is concerned. Okay, so it did the school education, higher education, other areas of focus. At the same time, we have also discussed how to implement it. In our next session, we will discuss another module of your course. Thank you.